I'm Daniel, by the way.
I'm sorry?
Daniel.
Hi, Daniel. I'm Julie.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Have you been here for a while?
Yes and no. I mean, I've been here, but I was been part-time and just haven't really.
Done the
So,
whole thing yet?
starting the beginning of this year, I've taken it more serious and yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, how about you? What's going on with you?
Well, I'm not even licensed yet.
Oh, good for you.
So, yeah, Greg was nice enough to let me sit in on training and stuff. So.
You've been an agent before, right?
No.
No. Okay, so I got somebody else.
No.
Okay.
I mean, I've done sales.
Oh, that's right.
Professionally, like 5 years, but I was like that kid in elementary school, like buying blow pops and selling them individually and doing that whole thing, like lemonade stands and stuff. So
Yeah.
kind of all
So you've
my life.
been doing all kinds of sales and stuff like that.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So, hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
I'm Daniel, by the way.
Sorry, Dana?
Daniel.
Daniel, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, Lisa Hoover.
Lisa.
Yeah.
So then you're going through the courses. And...
Finished the courses.
Okay.
So I did like my whole like the fingerprints and all that. So I should be
Oh.
sitting for the exam mid-July. They're saying there's a little bit of a waiting period, right?
Yeah.
I guess this is a busy time to get licensed. So
Yeah, it was. I'm in July. I was July as well.
really,
Yeah, so it took a while to get that test. Just steady.
yeah. That's
Definitely take advantage. You took your courses through First Team?
I did them through Nationwide.
Okay.
But I do understand that you guys have the free crash courses and stuff like that. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what they were
that
telling
was. I did 2 weekends in a row, and I think that really helped.
wait, they do them every single weekend.
I believe they
Somewhere.
did.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah.
somewhere. Okay.
Yeah. So
I mean, they're between Long Beach, somewhere.
right. There's
Most of them are at corporate, actually, at the office in
Yeah.
Irvine. But
that was for me. I think it really was a huge
All
help.
the you really
For me, yeah,
okay.
definitely.
And there's
And
just
right before I took the test, like that weekend, my test was like that Monday or Tuesday, so it was like fresh in your mind, in my mind, and yeah.
There's just so many. The Nationwide, what they did do is they have all these flashcards, but learning all of these terms, and then there's 7 exams of 100 questions, and going over all the questions. It's just a lot of information to take in. So.
And I would say focus your attention on just doing the exams.
Okay. Not learning the definitions.
I mean, you'll learn the definitions by default if you just keep
Practicing
the exams. And I tell people, basically practice the exams enough so you can pass them at 80%, and you'll pass the test without any problem.
Sure.
You know, and the reality is that everything you're learning there, you will never ever see again for the rest of your real estate career. So it's not like I really need to learn this stuff.
All right.
And it's got to stay with me this whole time because it is on the job training, right? Real estate.
I tell people, as soon as you actually pass the test, please forget everything.
Yeah. But I do feel like it's all about people and sales, and so.
Well, yeah, that's really the key to success in real estate. Has nothing to do with your knowledge of real estate.
Sure.
And unfortunately, so many people get spaked out by that, and so many new agents come in thinking they need to know everything there is to know about real estate. They don't ever want to have a question that they can't answer.
You get caught up in your head, well, what if I don't know this? What if I don't know that? What if they ask me this? And it turns out there's always somebody to talk to, your manager, somebody that can help you out.
And the other thing is that the questions that we imagine people are going to ask are never the questions they actually do ask.
That's true. That's true. Very true.
So,
yeah.
You know, it's those things that get us into trouble. And this is a business where it's just getting in front of people. It's how do I make sure that every week I'm talking to new people, that people are finding out about me. And that makes such a huge
Something
difference.
by noon.
When
by noon. Can I look at it real quick?
Please,
No,
help yourself. No, you can look at whatever you want to. It's not like I'm really using it to its capacity.
I
for
like
sure.
that it's, well, it looks like you're doing pretty good.
Well, I'm working on it, but there's so much to the calendar.
Awesome.
And but at the beginning of the week, you put, this is the week in review, okay? And then this side is your week, coming. And then you block out, where you're gonna, what you're doing when.
Right.
And then this is Monday. Okay, look at all you get on Monday. Look, I'm grateful for Greg. You write down the 3 things you're grateful for, and then what?
I wonder how much I had to pay to put that in this book.
Yeah, really.
I got this new one.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Is
like
that
that
the
one.
life success journal?
This is called Win by Noon,
Okay.
and you get it on winbynoon.com,
Okay.
and it comes by the quarter. You buy it by the quarter,
Interesting.
and so
That's the one I have. The life. What is it? The life success journal or
Is
something?
that this one?
Yeah, I have the blue one of that one.
Oh, okay. It's kind of overwhelming.
It's a lot.
Oh my gosh. I mean, look at Greg. It has this in here.
A balance
Real.
all right.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I've seen that before.
I like that though because it allows me to reflect on everything that I
It's
did in
kind
the
of,
past
I
month
like
and then focus on what I need to do.
size of this one.
Yeah, that one's nice.
Because it's
what
bigger,
I like is
but-
that
Oh my
you have your
gosh.
schedule here.
Yeah.
You have your
Today.
your activity tracker, how many calls you made, blah blah blah, and what were significant,
Okay.
and you keep track of it all here.
Oh,
And then you
so
do your
there's
highs
different.
of your day here. You've got your to-do list here
Mhm.
and any notes.
Okay.
So it's kind of all in one. And this looks really good.
It's similar.
just
but I like
small.
the size of that.
I know.
And then
I do
there's-
too. I just want, it's like, no, I just need it all in one place so I'm not going, where did I put that sticky note? Did you see how I stuck the sticky note here?
Yeah.
In case I needed it.
Sure.
In case I ran out of room over
But
here.
I mean, they give you this much right here just to know how to use the planner.
Oh, yeah.
And so that way.
We have the same thing. We've
Oh,
got,
do you have that too? Okay, so that's just common. I'm like, talk about getting in your head. I'm
these
like,
are
oh my
these are the instructions.
gosh. Okay, so it's similar.
And I, of course, only got halfway through. And I went, oh, I can just get started and then I'll
Okay.
finish it.
But I
And
like
then-
how it has all, cross this off. You're done with that. You've done
So
this.
each page is one day.
Each 2 pages, right?
2 pages is Monday and Tuesday.
So that's all Monday, which
Yeah,
is nice.
That's all
I like
Monday.
that. I like
But,
the
they don't
size.
have tabs, so I have to keep moving my tabs over so that it's
okay.
easy to find where I am.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm figuring it out.
All
I
right.
like that one.
Figuring it out.
Well,
Are you ready to get started?
I know that 12 people did tell me they were coming this morning.
12.
So
Hmm.
last week, most of the people did not show up until 9:15 or 9:20.
Oh.
Yeah, but you know what we need to do? Start on time.
Well, yeah, so I'm
And
going to
that's
go ahead and get
good.
started anyway.
Good morning.
There we go.
Yeah, no, you need to do that so that we know, okay, he's
Eventually.
gonna wait for me because then we get pushed out, so.
So eventually, hopefully, we'll get it closer to 9. So last week we did talk about the importance of scheduling. So Lisa, how's it been going with your scheduling so far?
Well, I kind of got very slackerish and, crazy over the last few weeks when I've been gone. But last night I took the time to, take the 30 minutes and figure out how I wanted to block out my schedule and then wrote down budgeted like every minute, of what I need to do today. And if I can get 70% of what I need to get done, it's just going to be the greatest day ever, But I have to work off of a schedule.
Well, I think all of us need to work off of the schedule. We are all more productive. I mean, the research is overwhelming that no matter who you are, if you actually operate from a schedule, your productivity goes up.
Yeah.
The biggest problem with a schedule is that most of us have this feeling that if I schedule my life, I lose some of my autonomy. Now, the funny thing is that we are the ones that set our own schedule. So we do have the autonomy, but mentally it's like the schedule becomes my boss. It's like, and one of the things that I would encourage you to do as you're scheduling, go through it, and if in the first couple of days you're not getting closer to 100% things of your schedule done.
I
What
have too much on my list, right?
what that really means, you're putting too many things down.
Right.
And what you have to do is keep backing off until you can say, okay, this is what I'm really capable of doing. This is a realistic day for me. Otherwise, what happens is that if we only accomplish 70%,
We feel bad about ourselves.
we tend to fail to realize that we had succeeded at 70%.
Right.
And we'll focus on the 10% that we didn't get done versus the 90% that we did get done. So it's much better to say, how do I get closer to being real?
Yeah.
And it's easier to give yourself more time and say, if I get all these things done and I have extra time, I can pull something from tomorrow.
Right. And on here, my top 3 today are, I need to put comp packages together for Harbor Ridge. I need to get my 4th letter in the mail, comp packages, and make my Harbor Ridge calls to follow up with those people that have been calling me. And it's like, not everything on my list is important. So I really want to focus on those top 3 and then squeeze the other stuff in.
Okay, so would you give us an example of what the other stuff is?
Yeah. I need to connect with somebody I met last week. I need to find out what the homeowner's insurance is on the client. Can't figure it out. I have, when I was door knocking the other day, I saw a good house that might be good for that superhero guy. You know, that kind of.
Okay.
That kind of thing. You know, send a thank you note to somebody with a lottery ticket. I mean, you know, those kinds of things.
And so part of it is now when you're writing your list too,
Yeah.
try and get them in terms of actionable steps.
Okay. That's exactly what they have us doing back here.
Because one of the things that it's like if people put down prospect or even find out how much insurance costs.
Yeah.
Now we look at it and it's like, and we have to mentally go through this process of,
Yeah.
well, what do I need to do to actually accomplish that? So it's much better to, when you're putting your plan in, call my insurance agent put the phone number in your schedule and ask this question. So you get a specific thing, because a schedule should tell you what to do, not make you think.
Oh, yeah.
And if a schedule makes you think,
Then your
it's
brain's
going to
already
be
full.
impossible
Yeah.
to actually execute your schedule.
You
Right.
just don't do it.
So it's always when you're scheduling, it's what's my next action step? And you need to be as specific enough and put enough detail into your planner that
Okay.
the action step is there. If you've got to go look for a phone number, you've got to mentally go through the process, you will end up wasting a huge amount of time. So it's much better to actually get down to that granular level. Now, what's missing off your schedule that I think you committed to last week? You were here last week, right?
Yeah. Did I commit to something? I was supposed to, I don't remember. Let me look back at Monday. I was supposed to email you. No. What was I supposed to do? Hang on. Let me look at my notes. Look at my notes.
All right.
Yeah. What was I supposed to do? Schedule 30 minutes a day. I don't.
So what you scheduled 30 minutes a day for what?
I said on this stuff. This is getting really revealing.
See, this is
and I'm
where-
not liking this part. I'm on the hot seat. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so this is where, so when you write vague things, it's like,
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, I remember what it meant last week, but not today.
so you made a commitment that every day
I was
this
going to
week,
spend
you're going to spend 30 minutes a day learning.
the
KV4.
CRM.
Yes.
Yeah, so I spent 30 minutes the first day, and it was so over my head that I said, forget it the rest of the week.
And so,
And I didn't
what
put
did
it
we
on
talk
for
about
this
last
week even, that I need to take the time every day to do it. And I was
And
like,
you would-
okay, I'm gonna do it. And I didn't.
And we said it was going to be overwhelming, and you'd want to give up and get frustrated.
Yeah,
So, and it was that a good reason to not follow through?
no.
Okay, so on your calendar.
All right, I'll put it in there somewhere now that it's full. Okay, I'm gonna stick it on Wednesday, but I have to do 30 minutes a day. I can't do it today.
But that means you've got an hour to do tomorrow.
Oh, geez, okay, let's see.
Remember, if you move it out of one day, you've got to put it in somewhere else.
Okay,
And remember that for the first 10 days that you're working on KV Core,
yeah,
after 30 minutes you're going to want to give up, and it's going to be overwhelming,
yeah,
and you just need to say, I'm going to keep doing it.
yeah.
And I promise, after 10 days, it'll start making sense.
Okay, all right. Have you been working on it 30 minutes a day?
I have.
You are so confident, it's making me sick.
I've been,
You are so confident.
Oh, so that's something I can.
That's so good. Okay, so if this week, if I do, 8 a.m., that means I've got to get up at 4. But that's the only time I've got. So okay, now this week, because they're not doing the webinars, how do I get there? What are my steps to get onto KV Core?
so, one, log into KV Core,
Okay,
and the
no,
first thing
treat
you
me
do,
like a baby, this is good.
Sorry.
I have to, yeah.
first step is to set up your profile. Get your picture, all your contact information. Now, they've actually got it basically set up, but they don't have your picture and stuff like that. So you just want to go in and make sure your profile is right, everything is accurate, and get it set up. Then the first thing you want to do is actually enter yourself as a client.
I did that last week, and then it didn't work, and that's when I went, okay, this is exactly what I knew was gonna happen.
Okay, so then, to me, this is where
Enter myself, okay.
enter yourself into it and put yourself on a drip campaign just to see how clients are receiving information.
Okay.
Then I would actually start saying, how do I make sure I'm entering or uploading my existing database into KV Core so that my database is actually starting to build. And for you, one of the things that I want you to start doing right now is start working on getting a database. Right now, putting them anywhere into an Excel spreadsheet, every name, if you walk in, once you have your test and you have a database of people you can instantly start contacting, your chances for generating business quickly go up dramatically.
So I should start prospecting now. How would I?
I wouldn't know if I would start prospecting now, but you want to start building the list.
Okay.
So that the day you find out that you passed the test, you can start prospecting that list. I mean, the faster you get up and running, and even between now and then, you can send out general real estate information and start getting them to be aware of you. And that makes such a huge difference.
So who, I mean, if I'm not actively prospecting, who would those people be?
Somebody you meet at a social function, people you're talking to at work that you think, oh, this is somebody I would eventually like to buy some real estate, even if they're not necessarily, so sort of influence friends, family, and any and everybody you meet out there. Literally, you should start collecting names and addresses. Names, addresses, emails.
And then just a simple Excel document is fine for now.
That'll work. So, and hopefully everybody who was here last week did remember that they're committed to 30 minutes of KV Core work effort. There is links to KV Core training,
Okay,
all of them.
okay.
They are supposedly on the loop. I have not been able to find them.
Yeah.
You just go to the first team, first place, open it, was that Terry's? It's on the first page.
On
Just
Terry?
open it. Yeah, the news
Okay.
post. Yeah, just
Okay.
open it.
Okay.
I am trying to get the actual videos so I can put them onto the first team Vimeo
You
account,
can download it.
and I will put them onto agentcareerdevelopment.com. I have one there, but I've actually downloaded, I think it's class number 5. So you'll actually start to see those, and you can get to them all. Hopefully this week I'll have them all up at Agent Career Development. So, you know, everything you need to know, go there.
Okay.
So what did you say that we should do 30 minutes a day?
Work on KV Core. Learning it, entering people, playing with it, mastering it. Start by making sure that your profile is set up, your pictures are there, and enter yourself and assign yourself to a follow-up campaign.
My comment. So I did myself. So use my private account. There's a problem when I send it to myself because it's already in my phone. I received a email, hi Lynn, so I use a template. And I also received the second email at the same time say, hi, whatever the email address is. So I was very upset, and so I chatted with them on KV Core, and the guy's name is Tyler, and then he said, I'm going to try send it to myself. So he did it to himself, but it was normal. So I sent it to Jeff, it was normal. So they don't know why, but I'm thinking if your email, it's your own email, and possibly also in your own, like you have the email on the phone, it might have a problem.
So
So
the only thing I've found is that if you send it to your own first team email,
not first team email, like my
Okay.
private email, like my junk email, like for shopping and all that. I use my first team email and send to my other shopping email. So they don't know why, but I sent to Jeff is okay, and the guy sent it to himself is okay.
and I've set up
Just,
about 5 different emails so I can see different campaigns, and they all seem to be working the way they should be.
Do you have your email like in your phone
Yes.
as your own? Oh, then I don't know why.
You're just special.
I don't know why, but I tried to send to Jeff. He said, no, I only received one. So I hope that's the case. Otherwise, it will send to other clients.
So also go to your spouse, friends, go to a few people and put them on there and say, you know, would you tell me if there's any errors, any problems that you're seeing with that? But
Probably a few more.
Oh.
But they don't
And hopefully
have a
they'll-
problem.
they are definitely working nonstop to fix any bugs and glitches and stuff like that out there. But with any CRM, understand there's going to be frustration, there's going to be things that aren't going to work exactly the right way, and that's not a good enough reason not to use them, because they're all that way. There's no one that's perfect, and that's the key thing to remember from last week, is that this will still make your life much better, much easier, and you will make more money if you just get committed to using that CRM nonstop. You know, whichever one you commit to, understand it's just like marrying somebody. There's still going to be flaws,
Oh.
but their positives are. All right. So then remember to be specific, and going back to what Lisa was talking about in your calendar, if you just put in your time calendar, you say, work on KV Core for 30 minutes. The chances of you actually working on KV Core are pretty non-existent. Because you'll get there and look at it and say, oh, I got 30 minutes here to do KV Core. I wonder what I do in KV Core.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, coffee sounds so good right now.
Yeah.
Oh, and the donut store is right next to that. I bet I could and that 30 minutes will be gone. So enter 5 names into KV Core. You know, watch one video on KV Core and try what it teaches. The more specific you can get, the better off you're going to be.
Okay.
So Greg, if I'm just have my own CRM, I
Yeah.
mean,
Stay with that. I mean, if you
right? If I'm going to use that and I just cleaned it up and I really worked hard for that,
then just stay with it. Just, you know,
I mean, I shouldn't double duty here. Like, I shouldn't be doing, 2 of them.
no, definitely not 2 of them.
Right. But,
I mean-
but there is part of the KV Core that has your website. Like, it changed everything from the way the website used to be.
There are some advantages of KV Core, but now any CRM today, any modern CRM, you can connect it to your website. I mean, they all have little APIs that you can connect into it. So to me, it's like, if you've got a good CRM up and running and it's clean and it's working for you, everything is going out, I would be very reluctant to change it. Because it just, every CRM requires you to think about things differently. I mean, since first team is committed to KV Core, I figured I have to learn it no matter what. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm trying to figure it out, master the whole thing. And yes, there's things I don't like about it. There's things that are very good about it. So it's just a CRM though. Which brings us to our topic for the day. So first of all, how many of you got the chapter that I sent out?
I did.
Downloaded it,
Was
but
it-
didn't read it.
Was this the preface?
I read about
Well, it was the preface and the first chapter.
I
it.
don't think oh yeah, chapter 1 got it. Yeah, I got it, I read it, yeah. Sorry.
And I realized it
Looking
was,
forward to it.
I sent out the first chapter, and I probably should have sent you a couple chapters because it was so short.
Oh, yeah. And it was like, it left us hanging, it was like, and. It went to a commercial.
I thought you did that purposefully so we think
Yeah.
that you know what happened.
That's okay.
So what this book is about the problem of self-deception.
Mhm.
And this is actually, to me, a life-changing book that I know has had a huge impact on my life, the way I look at things, the way I perceive things. It's had a huge impact on my relationships. But probably the most significant impact is that coming from a marketing background, it's changed the way I looked at marketing significantly. When I started creating marketing materials for real estate agents, my first probably 10 clients were all very successful, highly productive agents. And I wrote marketing campaigns for them that were incredibly successful, that we could actually track productivity from over and over and over again. So I felt pretty confident that I knew what I was doing. Then some agents came to me and said, well, listen, could you create some marketing for me? And I said, well, yeah, I can create some marketing for you. And I created marketing for them, and it didn't work. And I was incredibly frustrated because I thought, well, why is almost an identical marketing campaign over here working, and over here it's not? And I will tell you, I probably spent 10 years trying to answer that question. Why is some marketing effective here and not here? And I found that some agents could take a marketing campaign that had worked for 25 other agents and it would fail for them. And when I finally read the Leadership and Self-Deception book, and a book called Nonviolent Communication, it all made sense to me that this is why it works in certain situations and it doesn't work in others. And it comes down to this issue of authenticity. and an issue of your mindset and how you see the world. Now, the problem with self-deception is that you're not aware of the role you have in creating the problems that you're trying to solve. And I see this all the time with agents. They come and say, my client is being unreasonable. This other agent is being unreasonable. But then that agent does the very things that make that problem worse. Now, if you ask them, do you want to solve this problem? What would they say?
Yes.
Yes, oh, definitely, I want to solve the problem. But then they do the activities that actually exacerbate the problem. So to give you a more specific, concrete example, I mean, to think about it. Anybody ever have a child that acts up? Does some things that maybe are not responsible? Maybe you've got a child that, you know, is coming late for curfew. Doesn't always act responsibly. Now, if we ask a parent, what would you really like from that child? Every parent would probably say, well, I want my child to be more responsible. I want them to respect the curfews, to be home on time, do different things. But now, when somebody doesn't come home and that child is not on time, what do you tend to do to that child?
Punish.
Punish them.
Yell at
We
them.
yell at them. We do different things. So let's say you've had a child that you've had this ongoing dilemma with, and one day that child comes to you and says, listen, can I borrow the car tonight? And inside of you, you really don't want to loan them the car because you're afraid they're going to be late. You're worried that they'll do something irresponsible, get in a wreck, whatever it may be. But you don't want to be totally unreasonable, so you say, well, yes, you can borrow the car, but you have to be home at 11. And you think that, gosh, that's probably so unreasonable they won't even take it. And they say, okay, and they take off, and as they drive away, you hear the tires of your car squealing. What goes through you at that point in time?
I knew it. He's going to wreck the car. It's going to be irresponsible.
What was I thinking?
I knew it.
Now, as that time goes on, you watching TV, you're relaxing with your spouse, you're doing something. As it gets closer to 11, what are you hoping will actually happen?
We'll walk in the door. No?
Yeah.
They show up on time. They're
Yeah.
safe.
You think about that, though. Put yourself back in that situation. When they left, they peeled out. You were frustrated with them. Think about what's going on emotionally with you when you know they're frustrated. Now, let's say they actually come home and they make it home at 10:59. And when they walk in, throw the keys on the table and say, I made it, Mom. What do you do in response to that?
I'll be happy, safe.
You should be.
Yeah.
You should be, but
But
do
you're
you
like,
think you
you
might
have to
say,
throw the keys at me?
you might
Yeah.
think, well, gosh, you cut it pretty close.
Right. Yeah.
So at that moment, do you actually thank them for being responsible?
I would. You should.
I think it depends.
At first.
Maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't.
See, most of us actually don't.
I was going to say, I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't have thanked them.
In fact, we might say, well, gosh, you cut it pretty close.
Yeah.
Don't squeal the tires
That's more my
again.
personality. Yeah. Please don't squeal
And
the tires.
Yeah. We focus on the negatives
I know.
rather than the positives.
Yes.
Oh.
Why is that?
I don't know.
Oh, I don't know that you got it. I know. Wait.
It's the culture. It's everywhere.
And it's because
Our parentry as
at the point in time that we're actually dealing with them, we're seeing them as a problem, not a person.
Oh.
And this is the problem because when we're in that state, we are not aware of what we're actually doing. If we asked a parent, do you really want your child to be responsible? They would say yes, but now they actually do things that create defensiveness, exacerbate the actual problem. And that is the problem of self-deception. When we are in that place, we tend to be blind to how we're making things actually worse. So it's this concept of it. Another way to think about this is, how many of you have ever flown on Southwest? You go to Southwest, you get a boarding assignment, and let's say you've got a fairly early boarding assignment, and you got on the airplane, and you see a window seat that you want, and there's an open seat in the middle. You heard them announce that the flight was not totally full, but most of the seats would be taken. So now you get on the plane, you sit in your window seat, there's an empty seat there's somebody in the aisle, and you think, gosh, I hope nobody sits in the seat. And you leave your briefcase sitting on the seat. You open up a paper and you try and make it look as big as possible.
Start coughing.
And you make that seat look as uninviting as possible. You see people walking down the aisle, some big people. In that moment, how are you seeing the people walking down the aisle? What are they to you?
They are the enemy. They're going to take my space. They're going to take my terra firma. Invasion.
Do you think that they can sense that?
Yes. But you want them to.
Yes, you're doing that. Yeah.
Especially when you say, I think I have Ebola.
So now I have a question. Have you ever been on Southwest looking for a seat?
Yes.
Yeah.
And somebody looks at you and says, this seat is open, and invites you to sit in one of those uncomfortable middle seats. But because they invited you, you take it and you enjoy the flight much more.
Oh, yeah.
Me too.
So what's the difference between these two people?
Their energy is totally different.
Their
One-
energy is totally different.
One person is empathizing with how those people feel, all nervous, trying to find a seat, and the other person is like, I don't care.
So this is what I really think it is. Some people will see us as people, as human beings that have needs and rights equal to our own, who needs a seat just as much as we do. Other people will see that person not as a person, but as an object, as something to be manipulated or dealt with.
Those are the narcissists.
Unfortunately, I think we all have a little narcissism in us.
Yes.
But I found that when we perceive others as an object, we tend to do things that make the very things we try to accomplish much more difficult. And when we do that, we justify our own activities because we think, well, you know, I had a tough day. I've got some work I need to get done. And we discount the humanness of the people around us. And Leadership and Self-Deception is basically a book that deals with this dilemma. How do we look at the world? Do we look at it and see the people that we are interacting with as people? Now, the funny thing is that when we see people as objects, we tend to do and say things that always make the problems we're dealing with worse. We almost always treat them as if we were better than them. And they pick up on that energy, and it makes natural conflict happen. If we can become aware of this and see each other as people consistently on a regular basis, we have a much better chance of actually solving problems. And this is true not only in a business setting, it's true in our relationships, in everything else. And that's basically what we're going to be talking about for the next few weeks as we read through this book and talk about how to apply it to our sales career, how it applies to the marketing we're creating, the interactions we have. Because this has a huge impact on our ability to actually connect with people. And one of the things that I found is that you can do any activity seeing people as objects or seeing people as people. So if you go to a communication course and you take and you master a whole bunch of communication skills, you learn how to ask open-ended questions, you learn to ask questions that are not defensive and a variety of different things. And you think, well, gosh, I'm going to have to use this on that idiot client of mine or this person, somebody that you just basically don't like. And you go use all those communication techniques on somebody, but in the back of your mind, you know you just don't like them. Here's the question. Will that person respond to the communication techniques, or will they respond to the underlying emotion that you have?
Yeah.
They respond to the underlying emotion, and that's why I see salespeople use an identical script. I mean, they can verbally do the identical script. Yeah. And in one situation, it's massively successful, and in another situation, it's a total failure.
Yeah.
It's that underlying it, they're seeing that person as an object, not a real human being. And I found that the more we can get into that point where we are always seeing people, everybody we see as a human being, we tend to be much more successful in building connections, relationships in everything we do. Now, the one thing that does come up is that people say, well, gosh, if I see everybody out there as a human being, and if we see somebody as a human being, we'll have these natural tendencies to want to do something for them. They say, well, gosh, will I be overwhelmed with this tendency to want to go and help people? And there is that awareness that I would like to help them. And if you just realize, if I can do it reasonably, you should do it. If not, it's okay. But having the awareness to help just reminds you that you are all human. And if we aren't having regular tendencies to help other people, we are probably becoming less and less human because we're treating more and more people like objects. And as a salesperson, as a real estate consultant, the more you can really see and treat your clients as people, the more successful you will be at actually helping them accomplish your goals and accomplish yours. And so that's what leadership and self-deception is really all about. Any questions about the basic concept?
I personally think my problem is a little, I'm too much like that. I care too much. I try to help too much. And being in real estate is sometimes, it's not always a fair game for both sides. You have to sometimes, just fight for your client. They want you to, or I don't know. It's just exhausting for me to try to help and be in a position that, sometimes you need to be a little not not nice to the other side, just to fight for your client. And this is being reasonable. This is not like, I'm not making it up. You all know it's not always a fair game. You have to sometimes push it one way or another.
It's almost never a fair game to me. I mean, it's like,
and it hurts me
how can it be?
Being too sensitive. Sometimes I'm like, maybe this is not for me. This is just too much for me.
So it's interesting, as we go through this book, it's going to talk about a variety of ways that we use to justify our activities. And one of them is what they call the helpful box. That I see myself as being helpful. But if I only see myself as helpful, I feel obligated to always go do this. And we'll talk about ways to overcome. There's 4 classic sort of misconceptions of how we see people that get us into trouble. And the helpfulness box is one of those ways. Another one is feeling like I deserve something. I've gone through a variety of things, so I deserve this from people. Another one is perceiving people as I'm better than they are. And so we'll talk about how to deal with those and still see the humanness in people. And I found that the more we can sort of catch ourselves, because all of those are actual judgments of how we're perceiving things. And what happens is, when we see somebody as an object that we have to manipulate, I mean, as we very quickly talked about this, it's like we quickly make these judgments, it's not fair, it's always not fair, it's this. And we are very quick to put huge numbers of people into these boxes and labels. And what I want us to do is really work on avoiding the labels.
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as we put people into labels, that's the essence of prejudice. We put people into a category of, based on ethnicity, they're this way. We say, well, this group of people is that way. Women are this way. Men are that way. This group is lazy. This group is, And now we take all these people that we don't even know and we lump them into this one category and we generalize it. And that creates all kinds of problems for us in many different ways. So the more we can take a step back and really see each person and each situation as a person, as a situation, what I found is that we can much more effectively deal with that situation. As soon as we start lumping it into everything else and we bring in experiences from the past, fears of the future, we become less creative and less able to actually deal with what's actually in front of us. And instead of focusing on making things go right, we try and resist or change the things that have already gone wrong. And if we can learn how to spend more time up front thinking about how to make things go right, we can avoid 90% of the problems. The problem is that most of us actually get sort of a secret burst of energy from confronting a problem. So we actually make it worse. So we're going to talk about how to overcome that and deal with it. So as we go forward now, this book, if you actually sat down and read it, will only take about, from beginning to end, is about 3.5 hours. I think that's how long it is on Audible. So the question is, how many chapters would you like to read for next week? how fast do you want to go through this?
Are they about this long each chapter?
They're a little bit longer than that, but they're all pretty short. I mean, I think there's 24 chapters.
Yeah, I need to.
Okay. So they're super easy and read, and it's okay if you read the whole book. And if you want the whole book, I do have a PDF of the whole thing. It's also on Audible if you want to buy it on Audible and listen to it.
How much is it on Amazon, the hard copy?
The hard copy is like $14.
Yeah, put it out for free.
Yeah, you could.
Sorry.
I actually encourage you to buy the book. It was actually written by the Arbinger Institute, and the Arbinger Institute is dedicated to this whole concept. That's what they've done. They've actually written 3 books, all dealing with the same subject, and they approach it from a little different way. Leadership and Self-Deception, The Anatomy of Peace, and a book called The Outward Mindset.
Is that it, right?
That's it.
It's a black and red cover.
Yeah, so,
I'm ordering it.
Yeah, I think so.
so there's the cover.
Oh,
And the one that I've been sending you is actually, they originally wrote this 20 years ago or so, 25 years ago. The current version we have is the updated version. There's not a huge difference in it, but it is updated a little bit.
4 hours, 34 minutes at regular speed.
Okay.
So are you going to send us, like if we order it, you know, okay, if I got Prime, I can get it in a day, but
So
are you going to send us?
yeah, I will send you, I do have it in a PDF format, so I have it broken down by chapter.
If you're, sorry, Greg, if you're if you have Audible and you just want to buy it without using a credit, it's only $9.95.
Wow. That's pretty good.
And so
But she'll still send us the PDF for now.
I will send you the PDF for now.
Okay.
And so for everybody that's here, do me a favor, just send me an email and say, send me the CPDFs and I'll email it back so I don't send it to everybody.
I had a hard time
How do
downloading
we receive your email? Did you send to everybody?
I did. I sent the first chapter to everybody in the office. Whether
Yours
they
went to your KV core.
So we're just sending
a KV Core group for us. That's your client.
I've got it. The office is in my KV core. So, yeah.
And the morning.
All right, so any other questions about this?
And I think it's a great, way to move our mindset. A different way of looking at things.
And that, to me, I found this to be incredibly life-changing as I've really worked on it. Now, I've been working on it consistently for probably 10 or 12 years now, and I found that this is one of the books I read every year.
Wow.
It's one of my list of, this is something I want to go back to and master and work on over and over again, because it has tremendous implications in every aspect. My wife and I have read it together, we talk about it, and it's so funny in that even when we have arguments, we now talk about this book in our arguments.
Yeah.
So, a couple of things that I want to give you some tips on. When you first read this book, there is a tendency for you to pick up their terminology. And they talk about people being in the box. And there's this tendency for you to, when you're talking to somebody and you realize that they're in the box, for you to say, well, you're in the box. And they will look at you like you're a little nuts. So try not to use the terminology of the book with other people without thinking, do they understand this? mean, and we'll talk about it in here as a group because we'll all be coming from the same place, we'll have the same terminology, but it's important not to let that go outside because it'll frustrate you and it'll frustrate the people you're talking to that you'll just be crazy in the way you're talking. So be careful of the terminology trap. And then I want you to consciously think about it. And if you set aside just 5-10 minutes a day in the morning and the evening to think about how you're seeing people, it does make a huge difference in your ability to apply it. And I think I read the book a couple of times, and it wasn't until I really started thinking about, okay, how am I really perceiving people? And as soon as I started doing that, I noticed I had a much better impact. And I stopped doing things that I didn't like about myself. So I used to try and lecture my kids and grandkids a lot more. I found that this book helped me really realize that I was being counterproductive. And the more I've been able to just see their humanness and figure out ways to educate without lecture, I've become much more effective at it. Anybody ever have a conversation and you knew you were right, but at the end you were angry, frustrated, and you didn't like yourself because of it?
Yeah.
This book will help you avoid doing those things. It will also help you learn how to not let your own buttons get pushed.
This seems like a book every parent should read before they become, way before, practice it, like 10 years.
Well, yes. This
Because they're so frustrating.
The Anatomy of Peace, I think, is absolutely one of the best parenting books out there. And I think every parent, before they have kids, should read 2 books. The Anatomy of Peace and Parenting with Love and Logic. If you just mastered the concepts in those 2 books, you would find parenting to be a much more enjoyable, happy place. And you'd be a much more effective parent. Now, parenting is one of those interesting things. I wish I would have read those 2 books much, much earlier in my life. And I give those 2 books to every wedding I go to.
Oh, good idea.
Wow, that's so
That's
good.
a really good at baby showers.
Yeah.
To me,
Wow.
those are, I will tell you, my wife and I have gotten many thank you notes years after baby showers, weddings, thanking us for giving them those 2 books.
Wow.
Long after the blenders and the
Yeah.
other types of things.
Yeah. They couldn't remember who got given those. Yeah. Yeah.
Priceless.
So to me, those are, 2 books that will just have a huge impact. Also, if you are ever interested in management, I know it's called Parenting with Love and Logic, but it is, to me, the single best management book ever written.
Parenting with Love and Logic.
It's good for what?
Management. If you're managing people of any sort,
Husbands, etc.
yes. Husbands, adult kids,
Yeah. Dogs. Okay.
other agents,
We have to order 3 books.
anybody.
Say it again.
Parenting
with
with
Love and
Logic.
I actually read that book a long time ago, and it's super.
Budget. We've got it.
So-
Budget.
But
Yeah.
I have a variety of books that I have about 10 books that I read every year.
Wow.
Is How to
Because-
Win Friends on there?
What?
Is How to Win Friends on there? On that list?
No, I've read that a bunch, but I think I've internalized that one.
Okay.
So,
Which one?
How to Win Friends and Influence People, like Dale Carnegie.
I do read that book every year. I
Wow,
listen to it.
good.
It's a really, really good book.
Good.
Can you give us a list of books that?
So, remember, I do have Greg Herder's book list. So, GregHerdersBookList.com.
300?
GregHerdersBookList.com.
It's not on agentcareerdevelopment.com?
No, it's not. I should probably put a link to it.
Wait, that's an actual website?
Yes.
Oh, I think you're reading
GregHerdersBookList.com.
300?
Greg,
Books?
Greg
You didn't say how
Herders.
many.
You know where I'm going when I need to buy gifts now.
Yeah.
So, but to me,
Gosh.
Parenting with Love and Logic, Leadership and Self-Deception, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your World by Wayne Dyer. And that's his book about the Tao Te Ching. To me, is sort of a must-read every year. There's a few like that to me it's like you want to internalize so that they become part of how you see the world. All right, so we'll look forward to doing this. Send me an email. I'll send you the next 3 chapters, and next week we'll have a little bit more in-depth discussion on how to apply this. And in the meantime, I thought last week, everybody who said they were going to write their schedule and email it to me for this week.
Oh,
I don't know that.
yeah, me neither. I don't remember you saying we had to do KB Core for
I-
30 minutes every day.
No, you remember that you made a commitment to 30 minutes of stuff a day.
Of this stuff.
And that's what we were talking about. It was the KB Core stuff.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay, so what do you want?
So, if you will actually write out your weekly schedule and email it to me, I will give you feedback on here's things that I think are undoable, doable, this is good, bad. And usually what I do is I help people make their schedule more realistic and action-oriented so that when you're actually following a schedule, you can actually follow it. So many people put together a schedule that is undoable. That even if you have a schedule, you look at it, the information they put in isn't helpful. It's actually counterproductive because it doesn't give them a next action step. You know, they'll have a general category, prospect, work on kids' school project, without knowing which school project it is, what specifically they need to do. And those things tend to be what ends up making you stop planning. Because
Sorry,
you
Larry. I don't know why it's doing this.
Achieving success at work and in life.
Sorry, it's an Android.
Enough to,
Oh, we know her reading list.
What can you do?
Yeah, I read Pierce Conversations.
So, and if you just email me that, I'll give you feedback on things that I found tend to help or to make agents' scheduling less productive.
But do you still do the major bullet point and then break it down to actionable steps underneath
So,
the bullet point?
I try and avoid general bullet points. I try and look at and say, okay, what do you need to accomplish in that? So, if you write prospecting, it's better to write call 10 people from my sphere of influence list, starting with letter B or letter whatever. So when we look at your schedule, you should instantly know what you need to do and how to do it. If your schedule makes you think, you are probably not going to do it. If your schedule tells you what to do, you are much more likely to follow it. So always think in terms of it. When I give up my schedule, what's the action step that I need to take to move me towards that goal? When you just write the goal, mentally, we find ways to resist it. We find avoidance behaviors that are more fun than thinking. And if we do that long enough, we just give up on scheduling altogether. That's why so many people start a schedule, do it for a few days, a few weeks, and then give up on it. Because the schedule either just makes them guilty or they feel frustrated that they can't get done what they put on their schedule. Anybody ever have something on their schedule that they just keep moving from one week to the next week to the next week forever?
Yeah.
That's because that's always a classic sign that you don't know what the next action step is.
Yeah.
And if you just say, here's the next 3 action steps.
Like clean garage.
And here's the funny thing. So when we put something like clean the garage and our garage is really a mess, it tends to be like, oh, well, where do I start? So if you say, sweep garage floor, clean one drawer out of this, and throw away that. Here's the funny thing. You'll go sweep the floor, clean out one drawer, and you'll probably do a whole lot more, but it got you started. If that just says clean garage and you think, oh my God, that's going to take me forever, I don't even know where to start with that mess. What you'll do is just put more stuff into the mess.
Yes.
And it'll get worse instead of better. So it's like, and then the other thing is have discipline to follow your schedule. So if you say, schedule 30 minutes to sweep the garage floor, clean out drawer A, throw away the sewing machine that's been there for 10 years. Now you go do those things. Now just move on and now say, what's the next step? What's the next time I have 30 minutes scheduled for the garage, do that. And just break it down into little bite-sized steps. You'll be much more productive. That's where they talk about, success in real estate is not about real estate, it's about learning how to follow a schedule. That's where Robin talks about the fact that if it's not on your schedule, it does not exist. I alter that to say, if it's not on your schedule, it should not exist. Because you should block it out of your brain. And then, if you can follow a success schedule, you will succeed. But you've got to create a schedule that's doable. And that's the key to remember. All right. So, takeaways from today.
I'm already boxing. I mean, this is terrible. But as you said that, I thought about just the clients that I'm working with right now and how I already have them boxed, like what their reaction is going to be to something. And instead of just kind of, I don't know what I'm supposed to do yet, but letting it go and, steering into the, instead of pressing on the brakes,
yes,
staring into it. I don't know. I mean, it just sort of changes already my relationship with them in my mind of how I've been boxing them in and how I need to really just let that go.
All right, and to me that's a great insight to have in that the more we can become aware of how we put people into boxes or categories that are counterproductive, that's how we start releasing ourselves away from them.
I can kind of see how I sabotage things because I'm just already going, oh, of course, he's the one who wants to see that house and now he has to work and I'm already going there. And so I can see how I put the brakes on things instead of just letting them go. I can't explain what this is, but...
And what you're actually describing is this concept of actual collusion. and this is one of the interesting things that my wife and I, when we read this book, we had found that we had some habitual fights over the same thing that we had repeated for many, many years. And what we realized is that we just pressed each other's buttons in exactly the same way over and over and over again, and we were actually enjoying the process because it justified our own bad behavior.
Again.
Yes. And
it's like death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Yes.
You know?
So, other takeaways?
My biggest takeaway was about the schedule, that sometimes I put too much and then I feel, oh, I didn't do it, but I should put less. And you said put less and take some from the day after if you have time. So at least, you feel good that you did everything. And I usually write a detailed list of what I'm going to do the day after, and then I put like something general in this. So maybe I try to make it in like one sheet and break it down. But I do write it at night. But most of the times I have extra items that I didn't have time to do. And most of the time it's a little vague, it's not detailed, so it's like prospecting and then I don't do it because I don't know what to do, and prospecting doesn't feel good, so I don't know what to do.
So even,
that's the point.
Even things like people put into quality time with husband, quality time with kids, those are undoable.
It should be what are you going to do?
So it's like, what's the specific activity?
Take them for ice cream.
Take them to ice cream, go walk on the beach, go do something. And you'll find that if you take that mental time when you're actually putting your schedule together to say, here's the activities, you'll do a lot more stuff. If you wait until, oh, we're finally home and you want to have some quality time, and now we're tired, and we just default to the TV or the same things we always do. And then we say, well, I really want to do something different, but it's mentally scheduling that. So it's like, what am I going to actually do? Where am I going to take, let's go to dinner at X, and you'll find that you'll follow through a lot more effectively. Other insights? So next week, it starts at 9.
Yeah.
Please be on time.
What were you going to say?
Oh, just I was going to say there's a lot of homework. Insights and reading. I really had bad, I was away for a few days last week, and then I had bad internet connection at my open house, so I couldn't download that thing, and then I totally forgot about it, and then I went to see Hamilton last night, so.
Nice! Did you like it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it is amazing.
Yeah.
And speaking, it kind of goes along with what we're talking about. Yesterday I was doing my 4th letter, which is the one where you crinkle it up and put the sticky on it that says, call me, da-da-da. And I was going, oh my gosh, these are my neighbors. I was already going in my head about how they're going to react to this letter. I'm probably going to lose all of, then I've got this other agent sending out letters now because my letter went out, and I'm just going there. And then I just started hearing that I'm not throwing away my shot. I'm not going to win that shot. It's about like, don't give up your shot. We're doing things out of the box. We're not doing, the other letter that the girl sent is very in the real estate box, and I'm going, look, you call me, and I'm not throwing away my shot. And I just wrote out those envelopes, and I'm like, I can't wait to get this in the mail. I've already gotten 8 calls off of that dumb letter.
Good job.
So because I'm envisioning now, this is not just for my buyers, but this is going to be listings.
Well, yeah.
I'm not throwing, I know that's the point of the deal, but I kind of came at it with authenticity. I really did have buyers, but I really do see that I'm not throwing away my shot. I mean, I'm making an impact with this letter.
Yes. All right.
Wow.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
I'm so excited you saw that though.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, it was amazing.
All right, so next week, 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Please be on time and have a great week.
Thank you. Say it again.
Where did you get your schedule from?
Oh, Greg gave it to me. It was a lesson that Robin
Thank
made.
you.
Is that where you
It's
did that?
7
Thank you.
letters.
Where did you get?
That you send us to the farm. I was gone. I was on a trip, and so he
Is it
did
the whole-
So we gave you all the letters.
What?
and
He gave you all the letters.
As far as the schedule.
It is powerful.
Yes, and it's and you just copy the letter
Okay.
and don't go and make it all fancy. Just stick it on regular paper and put it in different colored envelopes that you send. And the fourth letter is just like the third letter, but you crumple it up and you stick a sticky note on there, and you'll see that on there. And then your next letter is explaining that you wanted them to think that you went through their trash and saw it in the trash, and so you pulled it out. And